morning. This is World Talks coming to you live from Warsaw, and this time we're going to discuss Serbia. Thousands of people protested against Aleksandar Vučić and his government in Belgrade on Saturday. Still, Vucic, who has dominated Serbian politics since becoming prime minister in 2014 and then president in 2017, said the demonstrators would never force him to stand down. To discuss, I have Besfort Rrecaj, international relations professor, University of Prishtina, joining me right now. Good morning, sir. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So protests have been going on and off since December of last year, following the tragedy in Novi Sad in November. But so far, there is no change. So what are the objectives of the protesters, and how likely are they to achieve them?
Well, what we saw yesterday is something really unprecedented, I can say, in the newest history of Serbia. Maybe it's something that we saw in 2000s, and if we take this comparison, I think that this is a very good comparison, because back in 2000, the protests that were organized against the Milosevic regime were very successful. And it appears that today in Serbia, we have a very determined students who have gathered and attracted a great amount of steam in a very massive protest that was held yesterday in a quiet and very civilized manner, demanding from the government and actually demanding to take the country back, demanding accountability, demanding a change of course on the path of Serbia, which is not going in the right direction. And I think that this was just another good show of protests and demands from students, which is likely to continue because we have, on the other hand, a very defiant president of Serbia.
Right, and I have a quote here from Vucic, who says, "You will have to kill me if you want to replace me." So, of course, he's unlikely to go willingly. But who could be a potential replacement here?
Well, I think it's early to talk about replacements. Of course, protests and demonstrators have been very careful not to politicize their demands and their protests. Because it was the aim of Serbia's president to politicize these protests or even to internationalize them, because we saw on several comments from the government of Serbia and Vucic himself saying that these protests are organized from countries in the region, basically blaming Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Kosovo, which is not the case. And also, he's also blaming, and the government is also blaming foreign intelligence services. And in this regards, he is trying to delegitimize protesters who are protesting against the impunity of the government, against the path that is taking Serbia, which is backdropping in all key democratic indicators, be it in prosperity, being in democratic development, be it in the rule of law indexes, and transparency, international corruption, and so on and so forth.
Right, so far it is a grassroots civil society initiative with no clear leader. So there's no one that we should be aware of, or shall, sort of no names at this moment.
Yeah, I think as we go forward and as we are having the situation much clearer, and as the president of Serbia determines that he doesn't have, he's not a king there, and he doesn't have wide support in his policies, then we might have leaders stemming out of the protesters or NGOs or civil society organizations that are able and willing to take the leadership and responsibility to take Serbia in the right path towards progressive development and rule of law, fight against corruption, nepotism, and so on and so forth. But they are, I must say here that Vucic is a very tough guy. And I'm saying this in a negative sense, basically, because you mentioned it correctly earlier. He was in power since 2014. I think we should add here 2 years earlier, where he was deputy prime minister of Serbia, but he was raised and developed his personality, political personality, during the most dire times of former Yugoslavia during 90s. And let me just mention here how much of a survivor he is, because he was a secretary general at one point during 90s of a radical party of Serbia, very extremist, right extremist party of Serbia. And the leader of that party, and the party was involved in the wars, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well as in Kosovo and Croatia. And its leader, and his leader, Vucic's leader and boss, was actually convicted of crimes against humanity in the Hague Tribunal, in International Tribunal for former Yugoslavia in The Hague. And he was also his other boss in the government of Serbia, because he was a minister of information during the war in Kosovo in 1998 until 2000. And he was at that time in charge of controlling media and controlling Milosevic's propaganda. And his boss, again, Milosevic, was convicted of, actually prosecuted, but he died while he was under prosecution there, for war crimes, for crimes against humanity, and so on and so forth, committed in Kosovo.
Right.
And yet he was a survivor, and he has that survival instinct. And I think it's going to be tough times, but for students, for civil societies, for right-minded people. But yesterday has shown us a very positive approach in this direction. I think that students are gathering steam from all around Serbia. I think that people are understanding demands of students, and despite the fact that government is trying to undermine the number of people that were present there yesterday, I think we had. The government is saying that there were around 107,000 people, but some other in more independent estimation, they say there were around 300,000 participants in the protest last year. So yesterday.
Right, this is a very, very significant number. But you've hinted at Kosovo, and of course you're based in Pristina. So I wanted to ask you, in case Vucic is toppled, what could that mean for the Serbia-Kosovo relations?
I think that if we have a more democratic leader in Serbia that is representing genuinely the Serbian people, I think that it will be much better for Kosovo-Serbia relationship. I think we are going to have faster normalization of relation process. And because I believe that Vucic is using Kosovo as his nationalist card, he doesn't want to solve issues with Kosovo, as well as he doesn't want to have a stable Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we have seen recently how he's supporting Milorad Dodik, even though he's becoming something of an evil, something that is anti-Bosnia and Herzegovina. Dodik's survival and Vucic's support to Dodik is key to his survival there. So he doesn't want stability in the region, because if there is, he knows how to survive in crisis situation. He doesn't know how to live a normal life.
Right. I just wanted to add that Milorad Dodik is the president of Bosnia's Republika Srpska, right? And he has been
Yes.
sentenced to a year in prison. However, he defies this order, right? So, of course, this is quite significant. Now, I wanted to ask you about Serbia's foreign policy, sort of a balancing act between the EU and Russia. So, how do you see this moving forward?
Yes, I think he's also somehow managing to harness, or to use this global geopolitical crisis to sort of flip-flop with the West and with Russia as well. So Serbia is the only nation, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, but Bosnia and Herzegovina has its own issues because of the decision-making processes there, and the level of involvement that Republika Srpska has to have in the decision-making processes there. That so Serbia does not has never placed any sanction against Russia, despite, on the other hand, taking huge amounts of aid from European Union, as well as trying to harness relationship with the United States. And we saw also a very diplomatic maneuver of Vucic when he hosted recently Donald Trump Jr. And I believe that this was just one of his maneuvers where he wants to survive in his crisis situation that he has find. He's currently internally in Serbia. And to be honestly, I'm in a way surprised to see Donald Trump Jr. there shaking hand with Vucic in Belgrade. It's not a good sign, I think, for democratic nations.
But you've mentioned the EU, and I just sort of wanted to zoom in on that. So Serbia has been an EU candidate country, right, since 2012.
Yes.
The progress has stalled. However, the country is still, if I'm not mistaken, to receive significant funding from the EU. It is supposed to be 1.5 billion euro over 2024 to 2027. So what is happening with this growth plan?
Yes, I think, this is part of the growth plan of the European Union. And I mean, EU is trying to use this carrot policy in trying to pursue Serbia to fundamental reforms and to direct its course towards European Union and pull it away from Russia's influence, from Putin's influence, actually, Putin's malign influence. However, and also as well as to have a more peaceful and cooperative Serbia in the region, particularly with regards to Kosovo, its relations with Kosovo, and its relations towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well as with Croatia, because there are some issues there also with Croatia. And so far, we don't see any significant success in this regards. And I think that the European Union should take under consideration these developments and try also other policies, not only monetary policies, but also other hard policies towards Serbia.
But what about Russian influence and Russian meddling? We saw that in the presidential elections in neighboring Romania, right? There was alleged Russian influence. That's why it was annulled. What about politics in Serbia? How prominent is the Russian presence there?
I think it's very prominent, very present, because of many reasons. First of all, we go down to historical, cultural, religious regions. There's pan-Slavism,
And of,
bond, this
Yep.
Pan-Slavism bond. But as well as nowadays, it's not. I think it's beyond that. I think it's more of upholding autocratic regimes
Right.
because we have this alliance of convenience, and we see as such an alliance developing between regime in Russia. So basically,
Right. Unfortunately, we have to put a full stop here. We have to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Much appreciated. I'm sorry we couldn't talk longer.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Besfort Rrecaj was my guest this morning. Thank you for watching World Talks, and please stay tuned for more.